Recordings in progress.
You are being recorded.
That's absolutely fine.
So that other people can enjoy your webinar as exposed.
Yes, let's hope. Let's hope. So I'm going to ask to open the chat now. I've just rushed back from somewhere else. No, that's wrong. And first of all, can we have a quick brainstorm of just ideas? If I say status, what are the things you're thinking of already? So maybe a little feeling of the expectations from this session. But if I say this is a workshop or a webinar about status, what does the word status mean to you? What does it make you think of? So let's have 1 minute to brainstorm in the chat, please. From Egypt, my word. Good morning, Romania. Welcome, everybody. Let's have 1 minute to brainstorm in the chat. From Egypt, my word. Good morning, Romania. Welcome, everybody. Oh, I'm hearing this with a great delay as well. Mutual respect, status. What does status mean to you? If we're talking about status, what are you thinking? What associations do you have? Being looked up to. Lovely. Authority. Interesting. Can be. Respect is going to be okay. Yes, respect is connected with it. Leadership. Okay. Good. What is a status symbol? Wealth. There you go. Now we come professional status as well. Macedonia, this is a wonderful collection of people from all over the place. This is fantastic. What is a status symbol? What would be an example of a status symbol? I'm looking at. I'm going to write in the chat too. Oh, it could be Fatima. That's a good question. It could be brands. Yes, a lot of students like to wear Adidas or Nike, or they like to identify with certain brands because they feel that gives them a certain status as well. But when we talk, and maybe it is more of a Western concept as well, the idea of a status symbol, it could very well be a very Western, yeah. A high position at work, what would be a status symbol? Yeah, an expensive car, an expensive suit, somebody who's obviously made themselves look good. If you have some expensive jewelry, it's a status symbol. If you have a watch that costs a lot of money, you don't need it to tell the time. It doesn't need to be so expensive, but you want people to see that you have reached a certain position, that you can afford this watch. So you're wearing it as a status symbol. And that's a very common phrase from Western Europe, yeah, kind of Britain, America, where I'm from. Okay, right. I'm going to start proper now by showing you a little video, and we shared just now, so I'm going to try and share again. Oh, am I showing already? I'm getting very confused again. Please forgive me.
Not yet.
Not yet. Here we go. This is a famous comedy sketch from England from about 60 years ago, but it's a nice way to introduce our topic.
Wherever you go, bring all your work
forgive me, there's an ad
with you.
I'm not going to see that.
Remarkable.
I look down on him because I am upper class.
I look up to him because he is upper class. But I look down on him because he is lower class. I am middle class. I know my place. I look up to them both. But I don't look up to him as much as I look up to him. Because he has got innate breeding.
I have got innate breeding, but I have not got any money. So sometimes I look up to him.
I still look up to him. Because although I have money, I am vulgar. But I'm not as vulgar as him. So I still look down on him. I know my place. I look up to them both. But while I'm poor, I'm industrious, honest, and trustworthy. Had I the inclination, I could look down on them. But I don't.
We all know our place, but what do we get out of it?
I get a feeling of superiority over them.
I get a feeling of inferiority from him, but a feeling of superiority over him.
I get a pain in the back of my neck.
Okay, so that was a nice little scene about status there. Awesome, awesome. Yeah, lovely. John Cleese, exactly. It was.
Big sports fan. Okay, well, listen. Now we have this.
Oh, I apologize.
Who's going to get to the Hall of Fame, and they're not people like letting people like Bond.
I apologize. I've still got my YouTube playing, so let me get rid of that. Lovely. Okay, so that's very much the things people talk about. Yeah, respect, looking up, looking down. Unfortunately, this is life. Well, there is a lot of life coming into it. What I'd like to tell you now is, I love working with status. I use it a lot when I'm acting. If I'm having to play a character, I think about what status are they? Are they high status? Are they low status? I'm going to explain in a minute what I mean by that exactly. But the time I use it most of all is when I'm teaching presentation skills and when I'm trying to encourage students to speak clearly. Now, I wish we were in a room together now, because there's a few simple games I would love to do together. We really can't do them on Zoom. A lot of drama work can be done on Zoom. This unfortunately cannot. So I'm going to just describe what I do. When you have presentation skills with students, they often, I'm going to show you simply what I do. When I'm speaking to you now, I'm looking a bit rough. I just came off a bus, but I'm trying my best to speak as clearly as possible. And that's the big thing for our theatre. We're an English language theatre. We play for students in the morning. It's their 12, 13, 14, younger, older. And for them to follow our stories, we have to speak as clearly as possible. I'm trying to do that right now. I'll give you an example though, and I'm doing 4 things that make it as clear as possible. I'll give you another little example. Again, this would be a bit better full-bodied if we were here, but I'll talk to you now and I will stop doing the things that make it clear and easy for me to understand. You will still understand me because you are wonderful English speakers, I'm sure. But it won't be as easy as it was a second ago. Hello, Anna Kosenko. Hello, good evening from Romania, lovely. So here's my example of me speaking not so clearly. And then can you please then in the chat, maybe notice what is different between the 2 examples. So here's me doing it not so well. Okay, so I'll do some. Hello, I've been asked to come here and tell you about something. I'm going to tell you a little bit about baseball, because I love watching baseball, and lots of people in Europe don't really understand it. So when I was in America, somebody took me to a baseball game, and I just loved it. And it's a very intelligent game, very thoughtful game, and that's all. Okay, fine. Thank you very much. Lovely feedback already. Mumbling, indistinct speech. Fantastic. Good. No gestures. Not sure of what you're saying. It gives that feeling, doesn't it? Even actually, I was sure of what I was saying, but Yes, what am I doing? I'm touching my face with my hand. I'm moving a lot. I'm covering my mouth. No eye contact. Thank you for noticing that. Even now on the screen, it's difficult because I very often look at myself instead of looking in the camera at you. But yes, I was intentionally moving the eye contact. These are the four main things. One of them is, well, actually, one of them is hands. Hands can be a problem because we look at hands. I try not to get too distracted here, but part of the thing is if you're trying to help students speak clearly, the reality is that when you are watching somebody speak, somebody you don't know, I get so self-conscious in with the webinar thing. When you're watching somebody you don't know, especially, most of your brain is not listening to the words. And this is a well-studied fact. About 7% of your brain is listening to the words the person is saying. 93% of your brain is reading their body language as they speak and is analyzing, well, the face, mostly the face, and the hands, about 15% or something like this. Anything else, little movements. And there's a great truth in the saying, it's not what you say, it's the way that you say it. And I think I want to come back to this towards the end of this session almost. Now, if you want somebody to understand perfectly clearly what you are saying, what you have to do is you have to help their brains shut down the 93% that's trying to not listen and let that 7% of the brain that is trying to listen get on with its job. And how do you do that? Well, the face, for one. If I'm making little gestures, I was touching my hands and face there, if I'm doing other things, your brain is watching that. And your brain is thinking, God, he's nervous. Look, he looks weird. He doesn't really know what he's talking about. Oh, he looks very uncomfortable there. That thought is taking away the attention from the content of what I'm saying. So I can shut that off by being still, by keeping eye contact, and by getting my hands out of the stupid way, because just put them somewhere sensible for now. When I speak normally, I do use a lot of gestures, partly because I am an actor and I've got used to that. Partly because if you are emotionally connected to what you are saying, you will use gestures. So it's difficult to say, kind of, yeah, the body language must be in sync with what you're saying, but also no eye contact, no varied intonation, exactly. But it should be a natural process. If you are connected, you will make some form of sensible gesture movement. If you are communicating really, and you really have a need and desire to communicate, you will find a more effective way to do that. The problem is that when we are teaching language, we behave as if the words were 95% of the communication instead of 77%. We get very fixated on words and forms of words and grammatical structures, and that is what the language is. And that's also what the exam system is, especially our job is to teach that. But where does status come into this? Well, when I'm giving demonstrations, how can we get students to do these things? Because when a student, and I always tell the students, when they talk in front of a group of strangers, they will do these things because they will be nervous. So, excuse me, I've just lost it. You're still with me, aren't you? Yes, you're still with me. Good. So if they're nervous, they will make little movements. Yes, you're back. It was just comforting to see. You're welcome to go, Luz. I'm sorry, please do. It kind of made me worried for a second there, just I didn't see your little face. Okay. So the point is, and I tell students that when they stand in front of a group of strangers, especially at a spoken exam, for example, they will be nervous. They should be nervous. If you're not nervous, you should go to see a doctor because there is a problem with your nervous system. Your nervous is designed in our prehistory. If 30 people were looking at you, they probably wanted to kill you, and we know that. We're trained to And our feeling is either we're going to fight or we're going to run away. And what most students do in these uncomfortable positions when you pull them to the front of the class, which I'm sure you don't very often, is they portray these nervous signs, and it's signs that they want to run away. They're moving, they're uncomfortable, their bodies are moving, they're fidgeting, their hands, their faces are making little gestures. And what that means is you are not able to listen to what they say because your brain is so busy processing all of this stuff. So I then move on to play the high status, low status game, and we can't play it, unfortunately, so I'm going to describe it to you. What we do is we'll walk around the space together 3 times. The first time I just say them walk nice and slowly. Every time you walk past somebody, make quick eye contact and say hello, and move on to the next person and hello, like that. So very gently walking around. The second time we do it, then okay, that's lovely. Now let's go and do it again. This time, as you walk around the room, when you make eye contact, I want you to make eye contact and then very quickly look away and look back again. So you'll be walking past them, go, hello. And you walk past them, they come to think, hello. And everybody's doing this. And then we stop after a minute of doing that. And you ask people, how does that feel? And they say, yes, it feels a bit strange. And then we do it one more time. And this time I say, this time, as you walk past people in the room, keep eye contact and don't look away. So we'll be walking around and they'll be, hello. Hello. And that feels very weird as well, just in a different way. Now, it would be lovely if we could do this, but I hope you've got some kind of idea of what that exercise is and how it could feel strange in 2 different ways there. And now we're coming to my explanation of what high status body language is and low status body language is. The one where you're looking away is a great way, a great physical way to get into low status body language. And what it does, this is the same thing as the nervous student. Basically, you'll come along, you're not keeping eye contact, you're looking away. And as you do that, just doing that already makes you feel small. Even a big man, I'm very big in real life, I'm quite large, but even I start feeling smaller, you start looking up a little bit at the other people. It's low status. You can do one of these things. If people are sitting down, low status, they're physically making themselves smaller. You can see people sitting like this sometimes in social situations. The toes will be pointing in, the knees will be collapsed together. It's low status body language. It's not necessarily bad. We're going to come to that in a minute. And the opposite of the low status is the one where you're staring. And that is super high status body language. And when you're doing high status body language, you don't look away. And I really like this idea of running away or fighting. The low status one is running away. You're saying, I'm not going to hurt you. It's okay. Look, I'm very small. I'm not attacking you. The high status one is more confronting. And you'll be physically bigger. You could put your shoulders back. They will be very still. They will take your space by staring at you. They will often take your space physically by getting close to you. If I was doing a webinar version of this, this would be very high status. I feel like Big Brother already. I'm really becoming a spirit. And they will speak louder. Now, though, my way to do this with presentation skills, which is why I brought this up, is the quickest way to get a student who is showing low status behavior to speak clearly is to encourage them to practice high status body behavior. And my favorite game in the world is where you get 2 students and you get them to walk past each other and say hello. And they have to be as important as possible. And they have to try to show the other student that they are more important than them. Because when you're playing, acting high status, you're doing the things actually that you need to do in order to be understood and speak clearly. A low status person, like a student, will probably never become too high status. A really high status person is a very annoying person. And if you have one in your life, try to get them out of your life. I don't deal. If anybody's really talking to you like this, like slow, staring, speaking loudly, they speak slowly, so you have to listen to them and they want your attention, like bullies, like high-level politicians are trained to be this way. Exactly, very similar to bullying. And that's very high status body language. In society, you can see it with boxers. I don't know if you ever, I don't like boxing, I don't watch boxing, but I know that boxers, before the fight, they'll often have a staring competition where they make themselves as big as possible and just stare at the other one, almost like animals fighting. They're trying to prove to the other one that they're stronger, even before they start the fight, by doing the high status body language competition. Models on the catwalk have very high status body language as well, because they're very still. Even though they're walking, their heads are very still. They're as physically big as possible. They've got their shoulders back. They can have no clothes on, it doesn't matter. But they still look very slow. You watch them, they're physically big, and they don't move their heads. They stare forwards. High status body language. And you can get paid a lot of money just for being able to do that. Now, where we're coming in, I'm going to have a few little things for you to do in a minute as well. This is like the me talking part of the session. But where this gets interesting for me is it's not that one is good and one is bad. So obviously being too high status is exactly straight posture. Exactly, it is. And it's not about physically being big, taking space in the world and imposing yourself in other people's space. Now, obviously being too high status is rude. It's actually very rude. And like I say, if you're in a relationship with someone who treats you in a high status way all the time, that is actually an abusive relationship. It's not good to be high status all the time, but sometimes it is. So here's my example before we get into a bit of talking in a minute. Is I like to think of an example of a headmaster at a school. So imagine, or like a senior teacher at a school. Should a headmaster at a school, should they be high status or low status? A kind of obvious question, I can wait to think. But normally you think like a headmaster should be reasonably high status. Yeah, they're representing the school, they're wearing a suit very often, they have to represent the school. But my answer to that is, too high scares is scary though, it's true, but they should be high. But this is exactly where we come to it. It's a scale and it can go up and down. And the best teachers and the best parents and the best headmasters and the best managers, I believe, are people who are very good at judging where to be on that scale in order to communicate effectively in different situations. So a headmaster should be able to be very high status and often will be. For example, a headmaster could be negotiating with a company about some furniture for the school or something. In that situation, they represent the school and they could be very high status. Like, well, look, these desks, well, look, we spent a lot of money on those desks and 2 of them are broken already. So, well, why I suggest you come back or give us a discount. High status. It would be appropriate for the headmaster to be high status in that situation. Yes, well, exactly. And there are people who are doing it. But I would say, no, Fatma, I would say a good headmaster isn't always high status, because then if a headmaster walks in the corridor and a child is crying, a good headmaster will suddenly go from high status in the phone call straight down to low status to be able to talk to a young child and say, well, these desks are, well, you come back next week and do something about it. Oh no, Georgie, what happened to you? Oh, did you fall over? Okay. A headmaster could then collapse, bring in his shoulders, put his knees together, and take low status body language, because that would be the best way to talk to this child. And that would be a really human approach. But that's where we are with this as a topic. It's not that good is high is good, low is bad. It's a question that, yeah, a good headmaster should be that. And like I say, a good anybody, a good teacher is, and that's why I find this fascinating topic to be thinking about. It's not just, are you high, are you low? It's a question of, where are you? What is the best way to communicate or to achieve what you want to achieve in a given situation? And that's why I come back to the lovely introduction I had there. But it's not, I don't really have advice for it. It's more a framework for thinking about situations. But it's one that I have found very, very, very useful. And I can't get away from it. Every time I look at a social situation now, I'm noticing who's high status, who's low status. Look at your students, who's sitting like this and making themselves big, who's got their toes in together. What is that? Now, it does depend on personality, and that's going to be a good point of what's coming up now. I personally, you're going to find you'll be more comfortable in one way or another. I personally am a low status, a middle to low status. I'm very comfortable playing low status. I don't feel comfortable wearing suits. I don't feel comfortable making myself look important. I feel a lot more comfortable playing. I play in my educational theatre for young children as well. So it does depend to some degree on the personality. But the point is that, and even as an actor, I enjoy playing very, very high status characters. So I was, I don't know if you know, Waiting for Godot. I was Pozzo in Waiting for Godot, who's this very arrogant, like psychopath, basically, an absolute psychopath. A psychopath will be ultra high status. They don't move their face at all, no reactions. Some of your students will be high status, looking like, oh God, this is so boring. Why? High status body language. My son will do that to me. He's 9 years old. It's like, oh God, why am I listening to this man? So that's the basis. So that's kind of part one of this little session, is to get that idea that status can correspond to body language, and it's something to think about in terms of approaching different situations in different ways. So I'm going to be quiet, partly because I need to look at my notes, and partly because I've been talking like a bit too intensely for too long. So can we have another 1 minute chat? Write anything you want. You can write, what is it like in Romania? What's life like? I love Minsk. Somebody's here from Minsk. We had a wonderful time in Minsk at the conference 5 years ago. And I'd love to, I feel very sorry for anything you want to write about what's going on. But my topic for you is, so having got this idea that, like from the headmaster, you can be high status or low status, what is the most appropriate status for a teacher to be in a classroom? We're going to come back to this again later at the end of the session, but take 1 minute, I'll stop talking and have a little chat exchange among yourselves. What kind of state? Should you be more strict? Should you be more? And actually, one more thing I will say, I forgot to do this at the beginning. Do you know the old advice, you should never smile before Christmas? That they say this sometimes to new teachers, and they advise it, don't smile before Christmas. Is that good advice? Depends on the student's age and attitude. So generally, what kind of status are we looking at as a teacher? What does it depend on? What is say? You've got wonderful comments, but what does it depend on? And is that good advice? You should never smile before Christmas. Is that good advice for a new teacher? Good. I'll give you one or 2 minutes, and I'll check my notes and come back. Oh, lovely, Helen. Good. We had a wonderful time in Minsk. It meant so much to us. We still talk about it. It was wonderful. Lovely, Agnieszka. You've come to the main topic of the next part is, yeah, do you have to be high in order to keep discipline? Middle to low status brings you closer to kids. if you were teaching, now another thing, I've got so much to say. I just, I just love this opportunity to be here. Well, that's the thing. A teacher can be high status, but low in most. Okay, that's interesting. And actually, that's going to be my answer in a minute. Just like the headmaster, I think it's important to be able to be high, but not be high all the time, but to kind of have that. And when I'm doing the presentation skills with the students, that's kind of what I'm trying to teach them, is you have that in your repertoire. You are able to be high. And once you've shown you're able to be high, you don't need to do it. It's like having a police force. You know they're there, but you don't have to see them all the time. But let's go back to these comments. Neutral ground. Lovely. Act strict at the beginning and then be funny and approachable with a dose of. There you go, Anita. Yes, I'll be coming to something like that, I think, as well. Firm to some extent, but friendly more. Yes. And I think we're the same as parents, aren't we? We're friendly most of the time, but every now and again, you need to just like let go and say, look, no, there are limits here and there's a boundary. What comes in. We're going to come to that in a second. And that's, for me, that's going to be the last interesting thought about status and discipline. This idea of, yeah, are you a tough? Is a democratic teacher low state? Maybe, yes, because you're kind of asking them for their. You're not enforcing yourself on them. You're using, but I'm sure it is very effective. Yes, and there's another good point there. Okay, so I just love reading your comments. I'm not giving you a webinar at all. I'm just reading what you're saying here. But that's the point exactly, in that you do feel. I don't feel comfortable playing high status games. Some people do, but yeah, I personally don't. Generally, I think teachers tend to be low status people. That's why we chose teaching as opposed to company, corporate, having power, using power. We chose a profession like teaching or nursing or doctors that helps other people. That's who we are. That's why we became teachers. So we tend to be more comfortable, low status, low to middle status, I believe. If you were teaching one-to-one, now I'm running out of time, but I'm going to separate now. I have an idea of pure teaching. So it's an idea. So imagine you're teaching one-to-one. So you're not in a school, you don't have to worry about discipline, your students reasonably motivated, and you're just thinking purely about teaching, purely about the art. I've got another speech about teaching as an art form, like acting, like music and conducting, teaching that the art of getting information into another person's head by whatever that strange, mysterious process is. We don't know how it works, but it does, and we do it. Just purely the teaching thing. If you're teaching one-to-one with a businessman in the morning, and then with a 12-year-old child in the afternoon, would you teach the same way to both of them? Would you be the same person as a teacher in both situations? Or do you think the fact that they are different would change you and how you would be when you're with them? Not really. Interesting. Okay, so you wouldn't have this thing. Okay, that's interesting. Different age, yes. Obviously, you'd have to adapt the speed or how you're feeding. You'd have to teach in a different way because of the one-to-one's lovely, isn't it? Yes. Oh, please, can I have some one-to-one? That'd be fantastic. It's not not the real life, is it? But lovely. But that's my thought. I haven't done this type of teaching for a long time. I really do my theatre. When we play the theatre, though, there's actually a very big difference between playing for 8-year-olds and playing for 10-year-olds and playing for 13-year-olds and 15-year-olds and 17-year-olds. And I think I do speak, I think we find a way to be authentic at the same time, but I think actually I do come in at a different level of status. I will come in higher status, I believe, if I'm playing for 17-year-olds. Because especially 17, they're so judgmental. They're so like, who is this? Who do you think you are telling me something? when I'm your age, I won't be hanging around schools. I'm going to be in a Ferrari somewhere. Who do you think you are? So there's a lot of that. So I will tend to be higher status. I do believe that. If I was talking to an 8-year-old, I will come very low because I do believe that's the best way to communicate with them. But I'm very interested to see what you think there. And that's true. You should take into account the learner's personality. So it's all part of the question of, are you exactly the same every time you teach? Or how do you change for different teaching situations? And I've got one more question. 7 to 14, it is demanding. Yes. Thank you, Anita. You've just led straight into my next question for you, which is leading to some of the final thoughts around it. You are an entertainer, an educator, a friend. So yeah, one-to-one is like a form of pure teaching where you can just be a teacher and you can just focus on your art, the skill you have of helping people learn things. If you're in a class in a school, you are not just a teacher. And so that's my next question for you now, is to brainstorm what are actually the different hats you have to put on as a teacher. So you do have some teaching to do, but people have already a show person. Yes. Are you an entertainer? Some people have already talked about discipline. Are you a policeman explaining laws to people? Are you a prison guard when you're in the corridor at break time? So here's my last question for you to brainstorm here. What are the different, or a parent as well? Yes, because they are young children, a psychologist. Can you please brainstorm some more of these? What are the different roles you think you play as a teacher in a school? I'll put in a few of the ones I said there, I think. I think prison guard, is that fair? It feels like it sometimes. Certainly policeman. A mopper up of tears, IATEFL. Oh. Person to confide in. It can be a psychologist. Yes, yes, you really are. Yeah, parent. A diplomat. Isn't it? This is going to be my conclusion. Yeah, really, teaching is an art form. It's a very, very complex, multifunctional role. And just teaching by itself is hard enough. And you've got all of these different things to do. But I think the last topic in terms of status I'd like to come back to is this thing which somebody brought up already before, the idea of like status and discipline. So for me, if I'm just pure teaching and I could be one-to-one, I think I will probably move up and down the status level. If I'm being with a businessman, I won't try to be higher status than them, but I'll certainly be a bit more professional and a bit more high status than if I'm with an 8-year-old. And here's a question, there's no answers because somebody said, and you're totally right, it's very different in each situation and in each school situation. But is it important to be high status to affect discipline? And is it important for a new teacher to not smile at the beginning? Even though it's just an empty show, so for them it'll be a pure show of high, but not smiling is high status. I'm not friendly, I'm above you, you don't touch me, you can do what you like down there, but I'm untouchable. The opposite of a smile, yes. Does it help discipline for teachers to be that way? That's the same question as before, but with the first impression is important. And I think another big question about discipline and status can often come back to the atmosphere and the support you get within the school, within your institution. And I think that some people have been saying very similar things. Yeah, it's important to be able, it's like the police, like I say, it's like the police force in society. We know that they're there. So now I don't want to do anything really wrong. I don't. But even small things, when I'm driving, sometimes I want to park in the wrong space just because I want to get to a shop quickly. And sometimes I do, I must be honest. But the idea of the police force, it's there. They don't now, if you're in an authoritarian state, God bless you, and I'm sorry for the way things are going these ways, if and when we are in authoritarian states, that feeling of oppression and high status where you have to look up to them becomes visible. It becomes part of visible society. In the free societies we have enjoyed in the recent past, and hopefully a bit longer at least, it's more this thing which I think is a good model for teaching, is the high status is there and everybody knows it's there. Everybody knows that if you go over a certain limit, there will be consequences and you could get punished and it can be bad. So but you don't have to say that every day. We know it. So once we know that, then we can relax and have more low status teaching. But I also think in realities, you can smile and still be fun. A lot of teachers, though, it's often the other way. I find a lot of teachers I see when I'm traveling around schools, very good teachers as well. They'll be very tough on their kids, but at the same time, the kids know that the teachers love them somehow. They kind of have this exterior, which is more like tough, but the kids know that it's for their own good. But I think a lot is about the atmosphere in a school and how you behave in terms of status. If you are in a good school, which I put inverted commas in because it's not the kind of school I'm interested in being in, to be honest. But if you're in a good school, you're not meant to smile and be friendly. You're meant to be very serious and focus on your subjects. And no, everybody walks around in uniforms, and it can be a lot less fun. I think for me, the ideal school, exactly what you're saying there, exactly. Specify the rules and make sure they're understood with a smile. It's fine, exactly. I think in a good school, and a headmaster will establish this, that the school is the framework. It's already very oppressive. You have to get up every morning. It's almost like being punished. It really is. You have to put on a uniform in England, not here, okay? You have to go to the classroom. The bell tells you when to go here. And it's like being in prison, really. You got the bells, you got the rooms, you got the things you have to do. You got the homework. I'm very anti-homework, to be honest, but you got so there is the institution, and that structure is already very oppressive. By definition, there's nothing we can do about that. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying it shouldn't be. I'm just saying it is, and I'm saying that's what it is. So I think when we're teaching, we have to play off that. But I think you don't necessarily have to be that as well. But maybe in some schools you do. Maybe, certificate link, yes, there you go, that's for the thing. Yeah, maybe in some schools you do have to be that, because maybe the headmaster isn't doing a good job, and maybe people don't feel the boundaries, and you do feel the need to hang on because your class could get out of control because you're not being supported from outside. So yes, there are. And that's my main point for the whole session today. It's up and down, and you have to know for yourself. But I really find this idea of high and low level status behavior as just being it's something really opened my eyes, being a very useful way to think about social situations and how to approach social situations. And I think what often happens is people get stuck in a certain way of being. I think people often get stuck in high status forms of behavior just because they feel they should, because they feel that's what's expected of them from the school, or maybe because they don't want to engage with their class and they want to feel safe and they want to feel separated from them. And I think my point of thinking about things this way is really think each situation is individual, and a really good, skillful teacher will find the best way to communicate in different situations. I think for most of us who are naturally low status, learning how to get high is a good skill to learn. I think many of us find it hard to get high. I think a lot of women, especially, who are more suppressed during childhood and school and taught to be good, find it hard to assert themselves and be high. I'm not saying they should do that all the time, but I'm saying they should be able to do that when they need to. And so that's what I try to do with students with the presentation skills. Behave like a king. Try it. You're not going to do it too much. You can't do it. It's not going to be too much when you do it because it's not natural, but it will give you tools that will be very useful for moving on and doing other things. I've got one. Take 1 minute. We've got like 5 minutes left. I'm going to make one last point in a second, and I'll be very happy to hear any comments or thoughts or questions from you. So if you can have just 1 minute of freestyle chatting, and I'll check my notes again. Ah, yes, that's my point. Oh, what a lovely point to make at the end. Great. Yes, but I think you're quite right, Agnes. If you've established yourself a certain way, it can be difficult to change that, and it might feel unnatural. It might be unnatural if you're forcing yourself to do it. So, yeah, I'm not saying, I'm not saying anything at all. Actually, I'm just really giving you this as a way to think about things. But you're quite right. If it's unnatural, maybe it's more important to be authentic and be low. But it is fascinating, isn't it? It really is like a nice, interesting way to think. And like when I'm playing like I say, if I'm playing in the theater, if I'm reading, I have to learn lines and play a character. That's the first thing I'm thinking about. Are they high status characters generally? Are they low status? And that's going to tell me already how to behave with my body and how to say the lines. Am I forceful or am I mumbling a little bit? And so I find that for me, it's a very good hook every time I have to play a new character. And like I say, Pozzo in Waiting for Godot was super, super high status multiplied by 10. And it was like as high as you could possibly be. And it was real good because I'm not naturally high. My father was, so I had a great time imitating him. So that's, yeah, anyway, that's a whole different topic. I will shut up for one last 30 seconds and let you have any last thoughts or comments, and I'll give you my parting thought. And it is nearly 9:30, so there's no need for you chatting. Oh, right, that's really funny, what is that? Okay, to shorten the distance, that's interesting. Well, that's the thing, and if you never go high status, and that's the other thing you can do, which often parents get, it's like they hold it, then suddenly they go really high status, like, right, if you do that again, I'm going to kill. And then nobody takes them seriously because it's like, no, come on, you're just tired or crazy. You don't normally do that. So if you can't save your high status and just do it once a month in a big burst, you have to, yeah, you have to put it out on a more regular basis than that. Exactly, that is the reaction. You got high status and like, oh, are you feeling okay today? That's not what you normally do. Okay, here's my last thought for you, and thank you again. I enjoy it so much. I really am. If I could ever do another one of these, I'll be absolutely delighted. So I'm very enthusiastic, really. Be high status. Thank you. And I've got one last thought for you, if I may, and it's to do with my I'm not going to talk about my theatre now, but I do educational theatre. I have played in films. I'm actually, by chance, I didn't study acting, but I am actually an unusually good actor, and I have been invited to act in Hollywood films with some famous people even. And that makes me high status, which is great. I've played Shakespeare in professional theatres, and people want me to play again. I don't. I play my theatre in schools because it's more useful. It's about something. It's helping students learn English. If you play in the theatre, I don't know who these people are. They could be doing anything. It's about me. If I play in the theatre, it's about me, to make me look good. I don't watch films. I don't need to be in films either. And it's not the lifestyle I want for myself. But I can play 300 shows in Polish villages, and I can play brilliantly, and nobody knows and nobody cares, and nobody gives me any status at all as a person or an actor, because it's just educational theatre. Oh, it's just rubbish. If I do one day in a film with Anthony Hopkins at Prague Castle, which I did, everyone goes, oh, that's very impressive. Oh, you're a real actor. Wow, that's amazing. What I did, any of you could have done. They filmed me from the back with a big coat on, and they changed my voice. Anybody could have done it. Anybody in the world with no skill could have done it. But I get status because of doing that. And the point I want to make now is, I know how ridiculous that is. I choose so to do my educational theatre because it makes sense. It makes sense. I'm working every day. I'm playing 3 times a day. I'm not waiting to be in another film because somebody wants me. It's a stupid lifestyle. But I know by making this choice that my status, my social status, stays way down. Even in the world of education, the drama people in the world of education, we're low status, even in the world of education. Nobody takes it really that seriously. Sorry, it's nice you can do drama sometimes, but it is the, I'll send you all my book when I can finish it. It is the most undervalued, the most useful, the most important thing for teaching skills. Entertaining skills can help you to manage a class. They can help you to manage relationships. And the last point I want to make is that there's one thing that's lower status than my educational theatre, and it's more valuable and it's more skillful, and it gets less recognition and less status, and it is you and what you do. And I do not have the courage to teach English in a school and get the total disrespect that you get, and to get, I'm even slightly higher status because I'm this really clever guy who's got a theatre company. But what I do is not as skillful as what you do. And if you want to teach students, it's an art. It's like conducting an orchestra. It is not easy. You have to be very intelligent and skillful to really make that happen. And then to make that happen in a school where you've got all the pressure from headmasters and teachers and parents and the social situations and the students, and you don't get any good. If I'm in a film, I can just act because I've got people doing my costume and makeup and everything for me. If you're teaching, nobody's helping you at all. They're not helping you prepare. They're not supporting you in the school, and you still do it. And you have to accept the fact that you have low status. But so my main message is also, even though we're doing a low status job, people with high status are not high status because they're good. They can be good. It helps you to be, if you want to be high status, it helps to be good, but it's not the same thing. Just being good will never make you high status. People are high status because they made themselves high status. They went to the right meetings, they took the right jobs, they wore the right clothes at the right time. And it's a whole game. Now, we respond to status naturally as people. We can't help it. And there's nothing wrong with it. I'm not saying we shouldn't. But please remember, when you go to a conference and you see a famous writer and you feel good because you saw the famous writer, and you should, it's fine, please do. But please also remember that famous writer is not doing anything more skillful than what you do every single day. And we just live with a low state, but the fact that we're doing a low status profession does not mean that we should not value it, because it is valuable, even though it does not get this bizarre status put upon it by other people in society. So that's it. I've gone over time. Thank you very much, IATEFL Poland. I've enjoyed this immensely. Any final thoughts and comments? Thank you, Helen.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I'm already looking forward to more inspiration from you. Yes, because it's so nice to see you in action. Yes, I asked you whether you like to play this high status game, you yourself.
No, I think if I did, more people would have heard of me, I think, because yes, I'm famous in IATEFL Poland, and I'm very grateful for that. But I'm not. No, I'm not. I really have trouble promoting my own career because I just don't enjoy it. I don't want to spend the time just doing that. I'm not happy at doing it. I love the teaching.
The real stuff. Yes,
I love the moments. I love.
You concentrate on the real stuff. Yes, instead of.
Yes, but it's also my handicap. That's my problem. I actually have a problem with status. I'm almost status autistic. I don't see it. Other people experience it in a way that I don't experience it even. So if I'm with an important person, I don't feel it. I know other people do because I watch them, but I don't. So that's partly why it's a handicap at the same time. I'm not.
So there are two of us. There are two of us.
Yes, lovely. Well, I think there's more of us, and thank you, Helen in Minsk. I hope we'll have a chance to come back there one day as well, and I look forward to the next IATEFL Poland conference as well. I'm sure I'll be there.
Thank you.